lot of times as game masters, we have to fulfill the entirety of the world. We've got to add not only mountains and monsters, but also the people within it. I wanted to ask you guys a little bit about your favorite NPC that you've ever created. Maybe not out of a book, but something that you came up with strictly on your own, and what led to their creation.
Let me ask you this. Would you like me to talk about James, Cyrus?
No, please don't talk about James, because that's cruel.
Alright, so...
And he wasn't even that, like, standout at NPC.
No, he really wasn't. It just broke you guys somehow. Alright, so we're playing this this homebrew campaign that I'd put together. It was sort of like we started off based in Galarian, the Pathfinder setting, but then we moved into this archipelago of islands that I'd put together myself. So it was just kind of very loosely based off of Galarian stuff. But it's a pirate campaign. They're going in, they're hunting down the pirate kings, and yada yada yada. So they've been chasing this one guy for a while, and he keeps taunting them, and they fight him, they almost kill him, and then he teleports away, and they're constantly just like, so they hunt him down they hunt down his first mate, or his second in command has his own ship. And they find the ship, and they actually take it over. They manage to capture the ship.
Now, a quick question aside: did we not wreck your plan? I mean, because we took them out.
Oh no, you super wrecked my plans. You super wrecked my plans, but that just goes to show, again, the first rule of DMing, the worst thing that ever happened to a game is players.
But it was some of the most exciting...
It was so much fun. I was sitting there like, my plans are ruined, but I'm having a great time.
The struggle is real, am I right?
The struggle is real. I'm sitting there like, everything that I was planned is just out the window now, but I'm having a great time, so this is fine.
Crumpling up graph paper.
Man, just let me just set the whole notebook on fire at this point.
All right, we need to take a 5-minute break.
Yeah.
See, that's why I don't make plans.
Yeah, no, I try not to make plans. I try really hard not to make plans. But so they capture the ship, and they're going through the crew, and they're like, "Are you a magic caster? Are you a magic?" They're looking for the folks who can send messages across the sea and whatnot. And this one guy volunteers like, "I'm a magic caster." I'm like, "Yeah." Are you here of your own volition, or are you imprisoned here? Because a big part of the storyline is they're going along, they're freeing these people that are kind of in servitude to the pirates. So it's a big part of what's going on. It's a lot of this is press gang, a lot of indentured servitude and slavery and whatnot. So they're asking, they're talking to this guy, and I'm riffing. I'm like, I have no idea what's going to happen at this point. I'm like, my name's James. I'm a fire mage, and this, that, and the other. Like, well, would you like to join our crew? And I'm like, yeah, I'll join your crew. In the back of my mind, I'm like, crap, what in the world is going to happen there? And the whole group is really excited.
We got a fire mage.
This is going to go great.
He's going to help protect the ship.
Turns out he just has a lighter.
So
he's a firebender.
They bring James with them onto the Pirate King's island, his home base, and they're going through these little ruins of tiny villages that have been just utterly decimated, and they get to this one area where there's cones of magic over buildings that have been keeping stuff. We'll just say contained. It's as soon as they open up the door, the magic breaks, and they can watch there's just piles of dead bodies that immediately just start decomposing. And it gets really, really dark, to the point where at the end of the session, everybody leans over and goes, "John, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing great."
Yeah. He feels better after all that.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling great. It was very cathartic. But James is with them, and he steps up onto this dais, and because the big thing with this Pirate King was blood. He was collecting blood for something. As they later found, his magic was tied into blood. He used a lot of blood magic, but we're not going to get into that. But he stepped up onto this dais, and suddenly, this giant disembodied hand made of blood just picked him up and just crushed him right in front of everybody and dropped his remains into the...
No, he picked him up and was like, "Welcome to my island."
Yeah. All right. It was a little more. Is because when it happened,
it was this in our face.
Just and I crushed him into bits and dropped his body, and everybody was like, "No!" They were screaming. I was like, "Not bad for a person I just pooped out. Not bad. This is pretty great." They're still talking about him weeks later, in-game weeks later, months later. But that happened
it's very confusing for me
year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago, was when James died.
James. Dang it, James.
A little bit for James.
James.
Pour one out for James.
Pour one out
Dead
for James.
Jim.
You never met him,
never
but
met
you'd
him.
have liked him.
No.
You'd have liked him.
No, like I said, it's very
guy.
confusing for me. My
So-
character's name is James, and it's
And that was something I put no work into. That that was just something I came up with in the moment after all of my plans were just gone. So,
But you have players that formed an attachment.
yeah,
which is
almost
something
immediately, which was great because I was like, I know exactly how I'm going to get these guys invested in what they're doing.
I know these guys get attached to NPCs because I've been there.
sometimes.
What are you trying to say?
Violet.
That never happened.
Anyway.
It was.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I've heard this story.
It was a choice between Violet or Stark, and I chose the direwolf.
Well,
Yeah, but that was your dire. Well, let's tell the story because at this
Well-
point I think everybody wants to know. I certainly do. I have no idea what's happening here.
it does tie into what I was going to speak about. Although, I kind of want to make a comment before that. So you're talking about the death of a character being sort of a blow to the players. And
It was a rally
affecting
point.
them.
It was a rally point, actually. It
Because we'd
made them very angry, and they were like they became much more determined to.
So, I'm going to shout one out to people who write NPCs for modules and things.
Yeah.
I was playing the Warhammer 40k role-playing game, Dark Heresy, and I was running a module, and there was an NPC that died. Someone that wasn't necessarily really important to the story, would have been a footnote and everything else, but someone searched the body, as players, murder hobos are wanting to do.
It's kind of what we do. It's like, can I loot?
And so they asked me for his belongings, and so I consult this page, this gear, like what does this guy have? And I read down what he's got, and I get to the bottom, and there's his lucky pen. And that just hit them right in the gut. They had feels, they were like, oh no. So
A picture of a wife he left behind.
no,
Yeah.
his lucky pen.
So, well, no, I'm just saying, it's something like that.
Yeah.
You can throw that on
It's a
NPC
token
and
of
all-
humanity.
Yeah.
And like it can be overdone, but in just the right spots. Whew.
No, that's funny because I'm playing this evil campaign right now where we went in and we killed a tavern keeper. And most of the characters sitting there like, well, I guess we own this tavern now. Like, this is our tavern now. But somebody goes in to loot. It's me. My character went in to loot, because that's what I did. Like, I loot everything. And I pick it. He's like, yeah, you find a locket. And inside, the picture in the locket is of a little girl. His daughter. I'm like, great, I'm going to take that. Because in that game, I'm a monster.
I can get 10 gold for that.
That's worth something.
If I ever find her, I can use this.
No, literally 5 sessions later, we run into her. A little bit older. She's not like the young girl in the picture, but it's like she's like several years older. And because I recognize her, I then she's working in the tavern that is now owned by somebody else. But it's her father's tavern, and she's just this beaten down tavern wench, and
Don't you feel bad?
we do all the things that you shouldn't do to servers in real life, like all the stuff. We were on the evil campaign.
No, you do that shit in my game, evil or not. I don't
No.
care.
So they do that, and then at the end, our DM is like, "Oh my god, you people are seriously awful. You're the worst people in the world. I kind of can't handle you right now. We're just gonna end the session here." I'm like, "Great, that's a great ending point."
Well,
Anyway,
so you talked about monsters.
all right.
The NPC that I was most fond of is actually one that these two are familiar with.
Which one?
Magus Kruos. So, I think you may have heard bits and pieces of this story.
I'm not aware.
Alright.
Which campaign was this?
Well, the campaign was in a homebrew setting, and it took place mostly in a city called Lundra.
Was this the rotating DM game,
Yeah,
or
This preceded that.
Brings
Okay.
back the feels.
all right?
So there was a succession crisis, and there was a lot of maneuvering to try and put forth an heir that could make a credible claim on the throne.
Okay.
And one of the claimants was a member of the party, but another was...
Do I know who they were? Could I guess who they were?
You know the part.
Okay.
I think you can guess.
Yeah.
But there was an NPC that, as time went on, was proven to have a rather strong claim as well, and it was Magus Kruos. He was a somewhat intimidating older man. He had a cane that he took everywhere he traveled, in a black carriage, and had an ominous presence everywhere he went. But one of the things that I really enjoyed, because let's face it, like, who doesn't enjoy pulling one over on their players?
Constantly.
Was that I took great care to describe the conditions that this NPC was encountered in every time he was found by the players. At one point, there was a tournament, he was standing in the deep shadows, and a player even commented on it about what that meant about him. He replied that it was easier to see into the light from the shadow and vice versa. And they encountered him on rainy nights and other things like that. Toward the end of the game, they left town for a bit, and he made his move and seized control of the city, of the capital of this kingdom. And it was revealed that he was a vampire, and he had been a vampire all along. And as soon as it came out, the players... You ever have one of those montages where you think about things that have already happened and you put them all into perspective and you
go, oh
no.
A similar thing happened in the Voyage campaign when this guy revealed his character's backstory and everybody's like,
oh,
no.
Yeah, that explains.
And I was like, do you guys get that I sowed in at least the seeds of it?
I've been sitting here, I've been dropping tiny little Hershey Kiss hints
all right, but
the whole game. But
as a storyteller, as a dungeon master, game master,
that moment.
Isn't that satisfying to create a moment for your players when they see something that's been hinted to all along, but just in a way that they haven't put it together, and then to do that reveal? That is, to me, one of the most memorable parts of a game.
Here's a weird balance with that, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately. There's a difference between writing that moment in the plot for yourself. Hey, aren't I clever? But that's not what it is. It's more about...
Pretty clever.
I appreciate it. But it's
clever.
you're opening the story and you're showing the players... Hey, I built this for you.
Yeah.
There's a mystery you guys have been solving little by little. Here's the answer, and it all comes together because of their hard work or their experiences instead of just you as a storyteller.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
That whole time as we were building up to his reveal, I'm just sitting back there behind my screen like, I'm just ready. I'm like, oh my god. And I know it's coming because like there's nothing else that he can do. But they're all sitting there like, no, but this is, and he's like, no. Like, no, this isn't. And it took a little while for it to click, but when it does, there's just this moment of silence, and then one of our players just sat there and went, "What?" and then Zach was like, "Oh, everything makes sense now."
Okay.
So that
and I'm just sitting there like,
yes. So here's a question for you, and for y'all as well. Have you ever lied to your players out of game to preserve a secret
Yes.
game?
Absolutely, I have.
Sure.
Lie of omission.
Well,
I've never
More lie of omission. Yeah, okay.
I've many
Let me
times
put it that way.
I'll give you an example. This was something that happened to me as a player, so at the GM's Roundtable, you can take it with a grain of salt. But I was playing a character with a rather unique backstory that had a secret, a reveal that would happen later, kind of like what you were talking about. And I knew that my friends were going to want to look at my character sheet at some point because I have nosy friends, and I'm sure you can think of the one.
Yeah.
Did you make a fake character sheet?
I made a fake character sheet. It had fake information on it.
Yeah,
but both
Gunstar.
myself and the game master knew what I actually had, so that the secret would be preserved. And when it came out, it was a big deal, and I think it was more satisfying for even the players that would have been trying to read my sheet before to have not known.
I'll also say, just from a GM's perspective, if you're a player and you're trying to draw information out of game from your GM, I've been in that situation a lot where somebody's coming to me, oh, what about this? And I'm like, being coy. You're just giving me ideas.
Yeah, you're helping us out. My favorite answer is,
Yeah, you're telling
Alright,
me what you want to
but
have happen. So
Real
okay,
talk,
that's-
you GMs out there, how many times have your players given you a better idea than the one you had through their speculation?
Constantly.
Am I
Oh
right?
my god.
I'm a terrible GM.
Nothing,
just surrounded by good
nothing
players.
is better than the paranoid players who's like, oh my god, is this about to happen?
But-
And you're like, yes,
They come up with
that
the
is
best
about
ideas.
to happen.
And you know what? When it happens, they're like, I knew it.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yes, you
got
did.
me.
Because
saw
You
it.
got me. You saw right through it the whole time. You gave me no
Now, sometimes
chance.
that even happens with your NPCs, because you may not mean for them to be important, but they become that way.
Yeah.
In Birthright, in the game, the sort of half homebrew, half advanced D&D.
Well, because
setting.
you're bringing it in from advanced D&D to Pathfinder. I'm in this game.
Yeah.
Actually.
There was just a page, a young boy or a squire, and he's wanting to become a knight someday. So he was just tasked as a bonus. You guys did some good things to take you in a horse and cart further south instead of having to walk the whole way. But you got to know him a little bit, and you asked him questions. He was just supposed to be this mute little shadow that just took you from place to place, and that was it. But you knew the horse's name that he rode. You started getting his personality, that he wants to become a knight.
We trained with him a little bit.
You even
Several of
trained
us.
him for no reason but just to do it because
It's like that scene in Lord of the Rings where he's teaching the hobbits the sword fight. You just switch
it's the same kind of thing. But then at any point he started to show his bravery, his burgeoning, growing bravery. And everyone's like, no, get behind us. We don't want you to get hurt. He's just some kid. They don't know him, but they started feeling really protective over him. I didn't mean for that to happen. There are other NPCs that I thought you guys would just fall in love with, maybe, like Miss Brownwind, who owns the tavern. Well, it basically runs the tavern that
I
you
like
guys now take care of.
Yeah, well,
It's
I'm constantly forgetting her name. Constantly, she is like in the back of my mind for some reason. I don't know, but this kid.
One of the candidates that I had, and this isn't my first sure choice of the NPC I was thinking of, but this was the runner-up, was the very first NPC that you got, because John and Cyrus both played in my old Star Wars Westwood D6 game. The very first, basically, NPC you encountered.
Love Nas.
Nas was
who
great.
was supposed to be a one-off contact to help to get the adventure going, and the party, just for whatever, we had some new players, for whatever reason they reacted so distrustful, and so, we don't know who you are. It's like, well, this guy's a recurring character, and every time he'd show up, they'd go,
I love him because my character.
they hate him
Just
so
dis-
much.
No, the characters hated him, but like us as players, we were like, yes,
He
it's
was just-
him.
He was just a throw-off character who just
was so
became
great.
this
Alright,
thing because of
so-
the players' reaction.
I wasn't in this game, so you got to tell me, what did you do with him?
He became their regular contact with the Rebel Alliance. He was an agent for the Rebellion, and he was basically supposed to kick off the adventure at the very beginning, and then maybe appear once in a while. later
Well,
on.
no, he helped us get set up with the we got our own hangar bay.
Yeah.
Because of him.
He became more and more involved. He was extremely important.
That was
to-
more J3. but,
Again, to be their
Yeah.
contact with
Fair.
the Rebellion.
Well, that was the whole
So,
Gunstar
did they grow to
J3
trust
thing. That
him?
when it was finally revealed,
that
I
was the
like,
wonderful
oh, I knew
thing.
it.
Is
I'll
he
never
was,
do that again.
That was the wonderful thing from a GM standpoint is that character was always he withheld information sometimes, but he was anything he said to the players, he was always straight up. He was always trustworthy. He was always honest. But they never trusted him.
All right.
And at no point did he ever try and mislead them or hurt the party in any. He was only there to help, but they always mistrusted
To be
him. It
fair,
was so
though,
much fun.
as a party, we were very mistrustful.
Yes.
Even of
That's
each
what
other,
I'm
we
saying.
didn't trust
Well,
each
it was
other.
It was an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
It's funny
It's a
that you
fun
say
dynamic.
that. Can I make a tie-in here to a certain Last Jedi movie?
I haven't
Sure.
seen it yet, so
Oh, maybe not.
Oh, then I won't make it a very specific tie-in.
sorry.
Um,
I'm a bad
But-
Star Wars fan.
no.
A certain admiral.
There's a certain admiral that is very mistrusted,
Yeah.
Piet?
and that's what that makes me think of.
I don't trust Admiral Piet. Not as far as I can throw him.
It's Akbar. It's a trap.
Oh,
Well, anyway,
one of my favorites.
Also,
Did
can I
did
just
you
say,
your favorite NPC?
heartbreaking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Heartbreaking.
I'm with you. My favorite NPC was actually one that I thought would kind of be a one-off, but then after you guys spent more time around him in the Birthright campaign, I thought, I've got a storyline here, and you guys can either follow it or not.
The Doctor?
Quercus.
Quercus.
Pico.
Quericus, because didn't we run into, like, his sister or something?
And you ran into his sister.
Yeah, we ran into his sister, and we were all like, wait, hold on, you know Quericus?
I don't think I was there for that.
Well, her name is also Quericus. It's sort of like the Japanese, where their last name is their first name.
Yeah.
So Quericus Alba, Quericus Petrea.
Well,
Oh my gosh.
So they.
I see what you did there.
You see.
I see what
as
you
a brewer.
did. I see what you did.
Other wine aficionados haven't caught on. That's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We talked about it.
Oh, that's right. So Quericus was an alchemist in this town that was beset by a plague. He was beset by a plague, or the town was, and they tried to figure out if it was disease, if it was poison, or what. Turns out it was a special kind of venom from these small spider invasions, which got worse and worse and worse. And this guy who is kind of... I designed him to be not necessarily the most trustworthy character, and he's very kind of, sneaky and clever, and then you run into it, everyone's like, oh, we hate him, he's a villain. But by the end of it, he's proven himself to be completely trustworthy and has your back, but you're still like, better watch him while we're
He was
away.
just kind of sketchy.
You know what?
Yeah.
Very sketchy on the outside,
We
but then after
were,
a while...
let's be honest, we were a little prejudiced.
a little prejudice
So, from a player's
Against
perspective,
like that certain kind of aspect of the character where it's you hear the voice and you're like, that's a squirrely
But
sounding guy.
it was an episode of Scooby-Doo. The person
Yes.
who's clearly the bad guy, they're the good guy who's trying to help the whole time.
from the perspective of a player in that group, what was great about that character is he had personality.
Yes.
Even just as much as a voice and a way of speaking.
Yeah.
It was like,
And your gesticulations
that little
worked into that,
extra
and we were, and that
bit
little bit of
added
extra, just kind of, all of
that
us were just kind of like
great.
looking at each other, like, I don't like the cut of this guy's jib.
But
And it worked pretty well.
Yeah, it worked
when they
very
say the value of a red herring,
Yeah, the
Can't
red
be
herring is amazing.
But that's
For
a conversation
instance,
for another time. I have questions about red herrings.
Old Lady
no.
Grelka.
Old Lady Grelka. Oh, yeah.
yeah.
She was red. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
she
thought
was a red herring.
Oh, of course.
No, this guy totally thought she was going to be
my
a
character
hack.
my character still wants to kill her.
She's still gonna. We're gonna get back on the ship. Jim's gonna be gone for 2 days.
'cause my
Old Lady
character's a
Grelka
lunatic.
died in the middle of the night. We don't know why, except for the fact that parts of her body were separated from the other.
all right.
Anyway,
So Zach, did you want to mention another?
Yeah,
NPC?
so my actual answer for this, again, I'm going back to my Star Wars game, and it was a very small character, appeared in only one session, but I chose this one only because of the impact that it had on one player, and this goes to some other stuff we talked about trying to bring in
let me see if I can figure out
a
what this
newer
one is.
player who wasn't unenthusiastic at all, but wasn't necessarily the big role player at the table.
We've talked about this. How to get people
How to get
hooked
people
in the game.
involved. And so basically, he encounters his father, who's a prisoner, and it wasn't. I created this character knowing that they didn't encounter each other, but I didn't know how the interaction would actually go because it depended on the player. It was like
Nobody knew.
This is as much or as little as you want from this character. And the interaction was wonderful, and then I knew, actually, I had a couple of different ways that I could take that character, and based on the interaction, I took it to where his father, they hadn't seen each other forever, and there was all this animosity, and it was all kind of brought in the open, and then before they could process it, he ran off to die heroically. And
I remember that whole time, all the players, we were just sitting there like,
and it never, when I created that moment, I created that character, I created that session, that plot, just assuming it was going to be another game, because that's what happens all the time with NPCs.
hands down, one of the greatest role-playing sessions I
Probably
have
the best-
ever been
probably
present
the best session
for.
of that game that we ran.
That was incredible.
But you create NPCs just, this might work, this might just be one-off. I don't know, here's a character they're going to encounter. You never know when a player is going to all of a sudden turn it into, this is the best NPC I've ever created.
Something that kind of worked really well with that was not that it was, let's sit down and hash out this big family problem, because the other player was a little minimalistic as well, just kind of straight to the point.
Yeah.
It was almost like his father was exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Very straight to the point. So they said very little, but they said so much at the time.
There was a lot that happened without being said, yeah.
And then when it ended so quickly and so abruptly, you knew that was the moment that they had to reconcile.
That was the moment right at the end of the episode. You know,
that was the end of the episode. That's right. It was the end of the episode. It was
works
amazing,
extremely well. But that, you know, it goes back to, like, as a GM, you can put all this work into an NPC, or you can not. But really, what it comes down to is how the players deal with it, how the players interact with it, how the players bring out more or less from that character.
So much of what you can succeed and fail with is based on who you have playing and what, even session to session, what kind of mood they're in, what happens. So much is dependent on them.
This comes back to one of my core principles of GMing, which is that your job is to tell the story that is most engaging to the players, and every NPC is potentially an NPC that's going to be really important to them.
Yeah.
And what I see in the stories that y'all have told is that you have a little bit of agility and flexibility in taking something that maybe you hadn't anticipated being important and fleshing it out.
You have to be able to do that, because you never know when the players are going to fall in love with the stable boy that's coming along the journey.
No, I don't know if you're just really good at improv, or you have like a bunch of just bull crap that you have written in a notebook that you just flip over, and however you need to prepare for it. You need to be ready for that moment when your player suddenly takes a turn that you did not anticipate.
My first GM from back when I was in the Marines, who started me into the Birthright campaign setting, he provided my paladin with an opportunity to save a farm from being taken over by kobolds. It's kind of a classic, simple level 1, level 2 game. And he saved everybody. There was like a whole bunch of kids. So not a single kid, not the mom, not the dad, nobody died. But there was a girl who was 16 years old, and he was like 18. He was like fresh out of the Abbey.
Yeah.
But it wasn't love. It was, she was very kind to him and said, "Hey, can I write you while you're away?" And it hit me as a military service member who was away from home. He's like, "I would like that." And so we wouldn't role play out any sort of romance. It was like, you received a letter from her saying that the crops are coming in and her family's doing well. And
something
I sent
to
her a
take your
letter
mind
back
out of
saying,
wherever. Yeah,
and it built this kind of relationship that grew. It probably had romantic undertones that we never touched on, but it was more of a connection and friendship to someone else in the world that I really didn't expect. But it just happened naturally in that moment. He didn't expect it either. He's like, "Yeah, that actually turned out pretty cool."
You have to be careful with that sometimes, but knowing enough about your players to be able to work in a connection that's real is really, really powerful.
I will say that giving players a connection to the world, giving them an investment in your setting, is one of the best things you can do.
And the Voyage campaign that I've mentioned a couple times at this point, I came in with 2 experienced players and 2 brand new players, and the struggle for the first little bit of the game was getting the 2 new players to not necessarily be engaged, because they were engaged, but they weren't coming out of their shells. They weren't bringing anything.
And oddly enough, they were engaged to each other.
They were engaged with each other. Yeah, as it turns out. But over the course of the last several months, we've been bringing them in. Excuse me. And we've been bringing them in and slowly building their character's personal stake in what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think I'm really excited to see how they're going to do from here on out, because the last time we played was pretty big for one of the characters that I had been kind of struggling to kind of just give me a little more. I can tell you're having a good time. I can tell you're invested, but you're not, putting yourself out there.
You don't realize this might be the opportunity for you to take center stage at this moment.
Right.
And
this is an episode about you, and I think she kind of anticipated it coming, and she ran with it. She did a really good job. I was very excited to see that kind of thing happen.
Hey, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And to see more from us, check out our website at thefoundrycast.com. And you can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thanks for watching.